Hey everybody, my name is Total Nerd Status 2.0. Today I'm going to talk about my problems with the Avengers. I've been putting this video off for a while, and this is actually my second time recording it because the first time this microphone did not record my voice, and that kind of made me angry. But I literally just did it now, so I remember everything, and I still have the notes. Keep in mind, I just want to have a little bit of... I want to have a warning. I want to have a warning at the beginning here. This is all my opinion. I'm pretty sure that 98% of the population does not share this opinion with me, and that's fine. You can leave as many dislikes and as many hate comments as you want down below. I don't care, but nothing you can do can change my opinions. So anyway, let's just get started. By the way, this is spoiler-filled for Avengers, if you haven't seen Avengers. First of all, I'm going to try and go through this pretty fast, because normally my videos are like 20 minutes long. It's probably still going to end up being 20 minutes, but anyway, let's get started. So, first of all, when we open in Avengers, the first time we see Hulk, he is hidden in the outskirts, and it's a very stressful environment, and somehow Widow finds him, and I just didn't understand how Widow found him. I mean, is Nick Fury keeping tabs on him? Is he tracking him? Because that doesn't seem like a very good idea. I mean, it would kind of be smart in a way to track the Hulk. If he was to go on a rampage, you would know where he was. But then again, if he wanted to get some peace and he knew he was being tracked, you would think that would make him a little angry. And that's the last thing you would want to do with that guy. So, second of all, Hawkeye is completely useless. I feel like there's no argument. I feel like there's not a counter-argument here. He was brainwashed for the first 2/3 of the film. And other than that, he had some cool arrows in the end fight scene in New York. He had that one arrow that blew up in Loki's face when he caught it. That was kind of cool. Other than that, I mean, what did he do? I just didn't see a point to Hawkeye. I mean, it kind of made it a little bit more relatable in a way, because he wasn't, he doesn't have superpowers, he's just really good with a bow. But I felt like that kind of brought it down. In a bad way, because, first of all, like I said, he was brainwashed, and even when he's brainwashed, he's completely useless. All he does is steal briefcases and shoot a couple people with arrows, and that's basically all he does when he's brainwashed. So even as a brainwashed guy, assistant, whatever, even as a brainwashed warrior for Loki, he doesn't do much at all. He doesn't help him almost at all. So I feel like Hawkeye was just completely useless. Not to mention the convenient fact that a simple blow to the head will get rid of all that brainwash. So that's just... I didn't like that. Black Widow figures out how to use an alien weapon literally right after picking it up. Anyone else notice that? I noticed, and it was very, very stupid. In that New York fight, I'll probably have a movie clip to show you, or just show you a picture of it. She grabs the weapon from the alien on the ground, does a quote-unquote cool spin move, and turns around and starts firing it at the aliens. How does she know how to use it? I don't care how spec op she is. She should not know how to use that weapon. Also, she learns how to steer and drive an alien ship after taking out the driver. During that same fight, when she takes out, I think she knifes the driver of, she stabs him in the back of one of the aircraft alien kebabs. And how does she know where to put her hands? I mean, she probably knows where to put her hands. You could argue that that's where the alien's hands were. But as far as I remember, the alien's hands were, down, because he, after she stabbed him, he's dead. So his arms aren't there. And you could make the argument that she remembered where the hands were, but for all she knows, steering left could mean steering right. It's alien technology. She should not know how to use that in any way, form, or fashion. That didn't make sense to me at all. But the one thing that I will give credit to in this movie is the fight scene between Thor and Hulk the first time he hulks out. I hate that saying. It's so corny. But the first time Hulk becomes Hulk in that aircraft carrier, and Thor smacks him in the face with the hammer and then throws the hammer at him, and the Hulk is like making craters in the ground trying to pick up the hammer, and then Thor just comes over like, woo. I will give credit to that. That was a cool fight scene. But I wasn't a big fan of the forest fight scene between Iron Man and Thor and Captain America when Loki's standing off to the side. It just that fight didn't make sense to me. Really, it was just, I'm Iron Man, and I'm angry at you. I'm Thor. I'm a god. I'm better than you. Let me show you how. And then Captain America's like, calm down. My shield is better than all of you. Just didn't make sense to me at all. But while we're on that forest subject, the Avengers are total idiots. Because they should have known that something was wrong, that something they should have felt some sort of suspicion when Loki hadn't moved during that entire fight scene. They spent 5 to 10 minutes fighting in the woods, and Loki just sat there. I mean, when they were done fighting, they didn't feel any sort of suspicion as to why he didn't try and escape. The Avengers are idiots, ladies and gentlemen. Complete idiots. There was a lot of convenience in this movie. A lot of convenience. A lot of really stupid conveniences. So, first of all, Loki's scepter has to touch the direct center of the chest in order to brainwash someone, right? Isn't it stupidly convenient that Iron Man's chest plate is in the exact center of his chest? I feel like the only reason Loki's scepter has to touch the direct center of the chest was so that he could try it on Iron Man and give the audience a chuckle. I feel like that's the only thing I feel like that's its only purpose. So I just thought that was stupid. In aliens focusing on one street of New York to fight and invade. That black hole was way up in the sky. They could have dispersed out that way, this way, that way. But they chose to go straight down and cover 2 to 4 blocks of New York City. The 2 to 4 blocks that the Avengers were holding down. Why wouldn't they disperse out to the rest of the world? If they were to disperse out to the rest of the world, the Avengers wouldn't stand a chance. But they conveniently were just surprisingly, for some reason, focused on 2 to 4 blocks of New York City. Just thought that was stupid. Thor used his lightning powers to bottleneck the portal. I think that's what they called it. And the funny thing is, he only uses that once. It's extremely effective, but he only uses it that one time. Okay. Aliens all somehow dying when their huge ship is destroyed by the nuke. First of all, the nuke itself is convenient. It seems like in today's modern age, or at least in the modern age of 2012, when this movie came out, along with Dark Knight Rises, it seemed like if you wanted to make your movie epic and like the biggest blockbuster ever and just, epic. If you wanted to do that, you had to introduce the possibility of nuclear holocaust. Or a nuke of some sort. Because Dark Knight Rises did it the same way. In order to make their movie feel epic, they had to put a nuke in there. And the Avengers did the same thing. I know they came out at the same time, so I'm not going to make the argument that they copied DC or vice versa. I'm just saying, it seems like the lazy way out. Because the nuke was like the biggest thing. The nuke was like the default thing in order to make something completely epic. And the fact that they chose to put a nuke in there for some reason, and then try to play it off as the government saying, we need to nuke New York City because we want to kill millions and millions of innocent people, rather than letting the Avengers fight the aliens until they die, maybe killing a few thousand people. That's not what the government would do, even in the Marvel Universe, especially in the Marvel Universe where everything's sugar plums and jokes and lollipops. which I'll get to in a minute. It just didn't make sense to me. The nuke itself is too convenient, and the fact that Iron Man was conveniently able to grab it and throw it up into space and destroy the mothership, and then somehow all of the aliens die Phantom Menace style, just didn't make sense to me. The aliens themselves were obviously not robots. I mean, they had steel armor or some sort of steel plate armor or something like that. But at one point, they were on the side of the building and you saw them rip off their masks and scream. And they were obviously aliens. They weren't metal underneath. They're not robots. So how are they interconnected to the mothership up there? I don't even like using the word mothership because it implies that they're robots and that they're interconnected, which they're obviously not. So why would they die Phantom Menace style when the mothership is destroyed? More convenience. That's why. Because he didn't want to give all the Avengers that much trouble. I've said this a lot of times, and I will say it again. The Avengers spend half of the movie, maybe even more than that, 2/3 of the movie, fighting. I did not like this at all. If you're going to call the movie The Avengers, have it be about the Avengers. Don't show me each individual character and then have them meet and say, I don't like you. Oh, I don't like you either. Let's show who's better for the first 2/3 of the movie, in order for them to finally realize, oh, this is serious. Someone has to die. Agent Coulson has to die. And that's what makes them realize, okay, this is serious. We need to work together. And that's like with 30 to 40 minutes of the movie left. And then they work together as a team for the last 30 to 40 minutes. And now, all of a sudden, they're switching to Avengers 2, which, sorry, I'll get to this in a minute. I'm just kind of going off track for a minute here. Avengers 2 is just straight up dipping straight into a dark territory, where maybe for the first 30 to 40 minutes of Avengers 2, they're going to be a happy team, like full-on team. The team is established, so they're together, and they work together. And then all of a sudden, a villain comes in and just annihilates them. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you think they're all dead. That's moving way too fast. Way too fast. Sorry, let's back to the first Avengers. A lot of people are saying that DC is moving too fast. I disagree. I've said this before, but if you're new to my channel, then I'll restate it. I'll try to make it a shorter down version. Avengers, like I just said, was 2/3 of the movie of them establishing the fact that they're coming together as a team. What DC is doing is they're having one movie establishing that. They're having one movie where the heroes meet and put aside their differences and clash and do whatever they need to do. And then by the end of that movie, the team, the Justice League, will be established so that they can jump into a movie titled The Justice League. That's where the team is already established, and that entire movie is about the Justice League, the League, the team. The Avengers, they spent 2/3 of the movie establishing that, and then the last 30 minutes as an actual team. If you're going to call the movie The Avengers, if you're going to name the movie after the team, don't have the last 30 minutes of the movie cramming the team aspect into the film. Okay, so a couple of last things I want to touch on. The argument of why Hulk can change on demand. He's always angry. It didn't make sense to me at all. I asked, I have a friend who's a Marvel fan, and I straight up asked him, he was sitting me right next to him, I asked him, if the Hulk is always angry, why is he not always the Hulk? He gave the argument with a grin on his face, no less, because he half knew what he was talking about. But he gave the argument that the Hulk has learned to control his anger. So the fact that he's always angry doesn't change the fact that he turns into the Hulk when he's angry. It's just he knows how to trigger the eruption of the Hulk. I don't like that at all. That makes no sense to me, because as far as the mythos of the Hulk that I know, when he's angry, he turns into Hulk. He can't control it, no matter how hard he tries. He could spend his entire life trying to control it. It's never going to work. It's just in his DNA. When he's angry, the chemical that is released when it's angry is the chemical that triggers the Hulk. That's the way I process how he becomes the Hulk. So if he's always angry, he should always be the Hulk. And I feel like they just crammed that in there just for the sake of more convenience to this over convoluted, convenience-filled plot of a team movie, as if they need any more convenience. I mean, it's just, they needed him to change right away. They didn't have time for him to get angry, so they just said, okay, I don't think anyone's going to question this because everybody loves us so much as Marvel, so let's just say he's always angry. People like me notice that stuff, guys. And I'm sure even the most hardcore Marvel fanboys will try to argue, and then they'll kind of stop themselves and, interrupt themselves, and just, I'm sure even the most hardcore Marvel fanboys can't explain how this makes any sense. One last argument I would like to make is that I asked my teacher, my English teacher is a really big nerd. He reads both Marvel and DC Comics, and he reads, or he watches all of the movies, and I asked him which he likes better in general. Not as far as movies, not as far as comics, just in general. Stories, characters, storylines, all that stuff, which he would prefer. At first he gave the argument that he would give it to Marvel, but it would be very close. It'd be like 51-49. Then he came back like 5 minutes later and told me that when they're at their best, when DC and Marvel are at their best, comics-wise and films-wise, he would side with DC. And then he went on this huge rant that I'm not going to go on here, but then he gave the argument that he would rather watch The Dark Knight Rises than watch Avengers. And here's why. In The Dark Knight Rises, you felt like Bane was an actual threat. There was an actual threat. He was huge, and he was smart, and he was powerful, and he was establishing chaos, and he broke Batman, and that was an actual threat. That felt like an actual threat that could potentially kill Batman, and at one point technically did. As far as Avengers go, he never felt like any of the characters were ever in any sort of danger, and I agree. I feel like the aliens were too easy to take down. There were a couple of moments when Captain America was knocked down on his knees, and Iron Man was being overthrown by all of the guys. But still, I never felt like there was any threat of them actually defeating the Avengers, just because there was so much power, and there was so much teamwork, and there was so much, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's just, I never felt like they had the chance to be defeated by this alien race. I never felt like there was a threat. Even when Loki threw Iron Man out of Stark Tower and he was falling to the ground, I knew nothing was going to happen to him. First of all, because it's a Marvel movie, and they're not going to kill off any heroes by throwing them out of a window when DC's in the other corner with Watchmen, just straight up throwing comedian out of the window to his death, which was awesome, by the way. Anyway, and then the one time that the audience would have actually felt danger and a threat to one of the heroes' lives is when Iron Man was falling back to Earth after throwing the nuke into the mothership. And they thought, he's not slowing down. Oh man, Iron Man's gonna die. Only problem with that is, in the trailer for Avengers, in one of the original trailers, they showed Hulk saving Iron Man from falling. So you knew what was going to happen. You knew he was going to be saved. There was no threat there, and there was no suspense. So that's just my opinion. I'm not gonna go on any more rants between DC and Marvel. That's for another day. But for now, again, like I said before, if you don't share my opinions, you're entitled to your own opinion. I'm sure 98% of the population does not agree with my opinion, and that's fine. Like I said in the beginning of the video, leave as many dislikes as you want, leave as many hate comments as you want, but this is my opinion, and nothing you could ever do can ever change my opinion. I'm the 1% that dislikes the Avengers, and that's just my opinion. And now you know why. So, thank you so much for watching, regardless what your opinion is. I love you all. And my name is Total Nerd Status 2.0, and I will see you nerds next time.